Welcome to Pera's Playbook. This is your host, Alex Pera. Let's open up our playbook and see who our guest is. Please enjoy. Welcome to episode 141 of Pera's Playbook. Today we're joined by Stephen Presley. He's an actor, director, producer. He also played Division I football at Appalachian State, so plenty of things we can dive into. We're going to talk some Game of Thrones as he was in season 8 of Game of Thrones, and we'll talk about a variety of different things, but glad to have Stephen on. I know it's nighttime for you and it's afternoon for me, so appreciate you hopping on. How are you? I know you had an interesting day.
Yeah, it's been wild. Murphy's Law always sometimes once you get beyond the trouble it goes to great things. So we're here and we're gonna make some great things happen here. I
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll solve the world's problems.
That'd be nice.
Kind of
So,
a kind of a tough call there, but
yeah, hey, you never know though. You never know. So, were you always interested in acting, growing up? Like I guess this could be a blend of a couple different questions, but I know you played football and you were at Appalachian State, so football had to have been a passion of yours. But then, how did acting become a passion of yours? And I guess that's kind of a blended question.
it's okay. I can um see football. Well, it goes back to like the type of person that I am. I've always been artistic. I was as a child, I was a professional, like, well, not professional, but I was a singer, an opera singer, and I was in the Brevard Boys Choir, and then I was in National Honors Chorus, singing Carnegie Hall. We toured Europe. We did all kinds of stuff in National Honors Chorus, also in Carnegie Hall. Um, I enjoyed doing that. That was fun. But the thing that really got me going in my everyday life was going out there and kicking and punting the football for hours every day. I skipped my prom to go practice football, so that when I went and talked to college coaches and the people that I would be, you know, you line it up, you're going to hear a boom, and that ball's going to go, and it's going to be true. So that was kind of like that actually bled over into what I do now by a lot from all the things that I learned about leadership and accountability and all those things. And to be quite honest about being an actor, I'm the furthest guy that you would to be an actor. I despise acting. I despise being in front of the camera. Sometimes I think actors have the easiest job. They show up, get paid a bunch of money, tell you what they want, how they want it, and walk out the door. So you try to film them and get them out as quick as possible. But I wouldn't mind if I was actually good at it. If I was actually really good at it, show up and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna say my 5 lines. You're gonna give me 50K, and I'm gonna roll out." But and, I don't know. My brother-in-law is Damian Chapa. Who's the lead actor of Blood In and Blood Out, and it's a huge Latino film. He's an icon. He has murals of himself painted in Los Angeles. Um, he's kind of a interesting guy in his own right. Um, but he thinks that I'm a really good actor or a good actor, and I don't see it. I don't know.
So
So
I was gonna ask you that later in the podcast, but since we're on the topic, like you've done acting, you've done producing, you've done directing, which do you like the most? And you just said you despise acting, so I'm gonna take it that you enjoy directing and producing more.
well, my best skill is being a director, is both visually, and being in control of the having holding the keys to the story. So like being in charge of the delivery from the characters, that in that moment that person is living in the world of the story. And you know my knowledge of cinematography and stuff has grown exponentially probably over the past, I'd say 15 years or so. It's really taken off. But it's like I came from a very frugal place. So when I was playing football and all this at Appalachian State, I actually was one of the guys that spent most of his days outside of class in the editing suites at the school. And I was kind of I don't remember the guy's name. This I had this one teacher, and he just inspired me a lot, even though he wasn't very inspirational. But he talked about documentaries and this and that, and I was like, wow, I could do that, or wow, I could do this. And I did a Dracula documentary and a music video, and where I actually used hand gel and lit a guy's hands on fire. And he had baking soda on them, so when he turned his hands, it went poof and went out, so that his hands were on fire. And that on a handy cam back in 2003 or four was pretty freaking awesome. People were like, "Whoa, never seen that before." I was like, I didn't know if he was going to catch on fire or not. It's just my friend, my friend. I said, I'll take you down here and we'll get you a beer or something. If
Yeah.
you're not a bad burn victim, we'll be good. So, but that's kind of like the where it all, it all started there.
Yeah. I think what you said it too, it's so true with sports. Like you mentioned the skills you learn from playing sports, they transition over to what you're doing now, and I think that's true in kind of all walks of life. You learn so much. You learn how to be a part of a team, and in most jobs, most things you do in life, you have to work together. Um, Especially, if you're doing a movie or a TV show, obviously there's a giant team working together to try to put out the biggest product. But most companies you work at, there's levels of who's in charge, and you've got to work together as a team for whatever your company is doing. But I mean, you learn time management skills when you're playing sports. You learn how to work hard. I mean, there's just so many skills that apply whenever you graduate high school or college and you finish playing your sports. You take all that, and you're really set up um, to be successful in whatever you're doing.
Absolutely. I can even double and down on that as like you learn things about also what not to have in your culture, especially like if you're running a business or anything like that. If you get negativity or you get someone that's not willing to grow with you, you got to get rid of them. You
Right.
have to make that move. And if there's a negative thing in a negative tone of any conversation where things are no longer fun, then you have to diagnostically look at that and diagnose where the cancer is at, and then you got to remove it. And I've unfortunately had to do that a few times throughout my career already, but it's like a growing point. It's like the new movie Nosferatu is like, have you heard about that movie?
Which movie?
The new the Nosferatu, the
I
new
don't. I
yes,
don't think
Robert
so.
Eggers. Yeah. Well,
Oh,
anyway,
yeah. I think I might have. Yeah, yeah.
they have like a really good cohesive working relationship, the director and the director of photography. So they just work together. It's just them. And the director of photography will say, he'll give him the business, like
Yeah.
not another Ron Cherry, you know, I don't know if you know Ron Cherry, ACC football, but Ron Cherry called a call in a game called he's giving him the business. And it's like, but he basically it was giving the director the business, and he listened to him. So and the movies came out great, but they have a great working relationship. But then there are other people that struggle with finding that or are difficult to work with. And like as far as the leadership skills, you got to know when to say no. You got to know when to move forward, or you just a lot of things, just are dumb luck as well. But
Yeah.
you kind
It's
of
not
got to
always
be in the
easy.
situation. No, 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 definitely not easy.
Awkward conversations, it's difficult to, and I feel like that's why sometimes people just they leave that person around because they don't want to deal with it or they're too nervous or I mean because it is an awkward conversation to say hey you're kind of a problem we're gonna have to ask you to hit the road. I mean conflict, a lot of people don't like conflict, they don't know how to handle conflict or deal with conflict.
I was a very shy person for most of my life. Very intro, like kind of introverted, didn't really know how to express the anything that wasn't, you know, okay on the surface. So conflict and stuff like that was dealing with it was not a real, you know, easy thing for me to do, like what you're saying. Even in sports, it was because it was officiated. There's a set of rules that everybody. The only difference is in life, you don't have that.
Right.
You never know. You never. I mean, you never know like which direction that's going to go, and there's no immediate observation, no Hawthorne effect directly on that situation. So you don't know how someone's going to react or how things are going to work out. But regardless, over time, I see myself as a pretty friendly guy, and I try to be. I try to be very loving, warm, and just like like another movie thing, but like the wrong Missy. I want to be the I love that guy person, like I want that response from other people when they're thinking about working with me. But um, it's very difficult to form the right team to to adhere and work towards your vision. I mean, it's much easier in the studio system where you have a studio behind your name and they see Disney, they see Universal, they see Sony, and then they say this guy's got that from there. Then everybody on the crew, they just like, oh, just listen to what he has to say, just do what he has to say. You know, he
Yeah.
Disney put him there. You know what I mean? And that's really just it doesn't really work that way like 98% of the time now because 98%, maybe that might be a little bit far. It might be more around 80 to 90% of films are acquired and bought at markets from production companies, and the studios are now just banks. And they put their P&A in, which is the distribution cost, puts it in theaters, puts it out there. Had nothing to do with the actual production. That was the production company that made that happen. And they had a ready-made product that had value, low risk, and all this for the studio. And the studio picked it up or bought it for their streamer. Um, so that system that doesn't really exist. So getting people to buy in to what you're doing and what you're believing in is not it's not a very easy thing to do. It's just
Yeah.
it's just not.
You also get a dynamic of different personalities and like depending on what type of a film or movie you're making, you might have some really big actors and actresses, and some of them might have a giant ego, and then you've got some other
Worked with some of those.
obviously,
Yeah.
you've got the blend going down of background actors, and you've got to try to manage that whole group. Like you said, you want it to be one great big team that works together and that's why I always find it amazing when, and usually you see it with great works. Like I'm a big MASH fan, and if you watch a lot of behind the scenes stuff on MASH, they talked about how much of a family it was and how great of a team they were,
I
worked
love that
together.
show. I grew up loving that show with my dad.
Yeah,
I loved it growing up. It was great.
and you can see it in the show. I mean, it's such a great show. You can tell that. I mean, they had no problems working together. Um,
You got it in my head. Yeah. The beginning of the helicopter coming in,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all in
it's
my
a
head now. Yeah.
it's a great show. I feel like it's people. I think there's not an appreciation for older TV shows for a lot of younger people nowadays. MASH is one of my favorite TV shows. I absolutely love it. I'm a huge fan of watching movies from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and I
I am as well. I definitely am inspired by a lot of, yeah. So yeah,
I
we're on the
work
same
at
page.
a high school, and I was talking to a student. It's like, oh, what kind of movies do you like? Oh, I like older comedies. I was, oh, you like 80s comedies or something? Oh, no, that's so old. I mean, like maybe the 2000s, 2010. That's what I like. Oh, I don't really think of those as being older movies.
Man, they're missing out on a lot. There's a lot. I mean, if you take out that stuff, you're basically canceling out John Candy, canceling out like most of Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and those guys. Kind of their what made them great was that period of time.
Hmm.
And I own a film production company called Grim Pictures, and we literally actually focus on taking the film elements of what made movies and shows and everything great from the past and using those formulas to try to entertain people instead of here, I'm slipping you a political message, or hey,
Right.
I'm trying to do this to please this group or check some box. No, in my films, the best actor that I can get for the role will get the role.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the best person held by their merit and talent and skill. And that's the way things were done then, because you had to be good. I mean, Robin Williams, let's go back to Robin Williams back in the day where he's wearing the suspenders way back, Eddie Murphy, all these guys, like, I think that you have to pay homage to what, greatness because you wouldn't be where you are. And our little, like even Jim Carrey, we wouldn't have a lot of things that we say at Christmas time or different times of year. It's just become part of our life is been a lot of elements of what we've seen in the cinema or on television.
Yeah, I
So
totally agree. I don't
you take it home with
understand.
you.
Yeah, I don't understand the idea of, like wanting to completely ignore the past. I feel like kids, they don't understand that. Well, I mean, a lot of stuff they're watching nowadays, maybe it's a remake of something from the 80s, or it's got elements from like you said of all these different shows, the formula, but kids have no interest of knowing where any of it came from. I mean, I one of my favorite Christmas movies, or a couple of them, I love It's a Wonderful Life. It's a classic, old. I love White Christmas, these old classic
Mm,
Christmas movies that I watch each year, and I feel like you ask like a younger generation. I'm a huge John Wayne fan. Love John Wayne movies. He's one of my favorite actors. But if you ask the younger generation, they've never even heard of some of these people. Jimmy Stewart, uh, Steve McQueen, all these different Maureen O'Hara, all these different actors and actresses. They've never even heard of them. They have no idea who these
that's the
people are.
great thing about see, I have a friend, and it's a crazy story about even how I met him. But he is the executive director of Paramount Studios in Hollywood, and him and his sister became like brother and sister to me, and we'd always meet up. But the thing was that he's worked there for like almost 40 years on the Paramount line, and like I didn't go in, I didn't, I met the guy, didn't care, didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he was. And it was his birthday. He was kind of chilling by himself, kind of like quiet. And I was sitting there stuck at my friend's birthday party. It was boring as crap. So I started talking to this dude too. And we got in conversation. And he whips out his card, hands it to me, executive director of Paramount Pictures. Says, come have lunch with us next week. And I was like, okay, we'll do that. And he's a great guy. Gideon is a real jewel. But the history going and eating lunch at Paramount lot and being told this is where Singing in the Rain happened, right here. This is the building, the soundstage that we're in, that this happened and that happened. And it's just like it's you're just like, wow, this whole thing, like, wow, it's like I didn't even know that there was this one soundstage, and I don't know which. I got to a point where I met quite a few executives at the studios, which has been a very blessing that I've been able to kind of be called by a lot of these high profile individuals, which, like I said, is sheer dumb luck, and hopefully me being a good person and not being one to really ask for a lot. But I didn't realize that Hook, the movie Hook, was filmed in the exact same spot as The Wizard of Oz in the exact same soundstage. I didn't know that Bram Stoker's Dracula was really a makeup in between Winona Ryder and Francis Ford Coppola. That she brought him a script of Dracula because she backed out on him on The Godfather 3 from playing his granddaughter. It's all these crazy things that you find out that everything is all these weird intertwinings of relationships of how, you know, things just kind of align and then great things happen. You know,
Yeah.
it's really an interesting, intriguing thing to think about that somehow through I don't know if you ever heard of the band Tool, but like there's a band called Tool that was really incredible in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Kind of
Probably some of the greatest
metal
musicians of all
rock.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
got like a new metal thing with an amazing singer
Yeah,
that's like
yeah.
a tenor guy. He's freaking unbelievable. But the thing that he literally is singing in this one song about the Fibonacci sequencing of the golden mean, and the drum beats and everything are actually matching the Fibonacci sequence, all in a line and all in pattern. Every little part detail matters, but yet it don't overthink it, don't overanalyze it, because it's just meant to be. And that just seems like how these great things happen is like if it's just working, don't question it, just go with it.
Yeah.
Let it kind of take off, because you'll find out like you'll find out that you'll run to a lot of resistance from if you get aligned with the wrong producer, you get aligned with the wrong people here, like like literally they can hold you back by not paying people on time, or the money not showing up on time for your delivery, which it wasn't supposed to. And you're sitting there directing the film or doing something like that, and you're not going to get paid until one of your major paychecks and when you deliver the edit, but they never delivered the money to the actors or them, so no one showed up. So you're still sitting there waiting. There's a lot of things that can happen. So when it does flash in the pan like some magic, you can't question. You just got to go with it. And I think that it's one of the things that I learned from all that history is like, like Dabo says, I don't want to bring Dabo in this whole thing because me and him kind of, it's good and bad, but mostly good. But the fun is in winning, and winning is by being creative, passionate, and having everyone buy into what you're doing, because that's what resonates, that's what sells, that's what people buy. After all, when Hollywood and everybody once again realizes that they actually work for the people that are sitting in the seats, I think that they'll start doing a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Like you said, the way it kind of it used to be. Now, right? Like you mentioned, obviously there's a lot of movies that are put out to please specific crowds, and it doesn't speak to a large audience. It speaks to a very narrow, specific audience, and um, yeah, I think, like you said, I mean, the people, it's kind of like, in a sense, right? The customer's always right. When you're at a store or whatever, they say the
Absolutely.
customer's always, it's the people that are gonna go pay to watch these movies. They're gonna pay to stream these movies, buy them on DVD, buy all the memorabilia, all of the shirts and extra crap that goes along with it. Those are the people you should want to please. They're the ones that are you're gonna make all the money from generally. I mean.
That's what I enjoy the most about, I grew up in North Carolina, but I live in Ireland. That's one thing that I really enjoy about my disassociation a lot of times with, you know, political things that occur in in affects affect art. And that's always been something that's always happened is war has always affected art. Political strife has always affected art negatively. The Renaissance was, I'm not a historian, but from what I've gathered was a period where, things had kind of cleared up. Things started to flourish economically. There was more peace than war going on, and the arts kind of flourished. And we got a lot of great stuff from that period in time. And I think that if we can get past caring about who voted for who or who, you know, the furthest thing from my mind to be, this is one of the craziest things, and I hope that doesn't really affect me in any way, but I really don't care who sleeps with who or what. And I don't care if they deserve a badge or what. We're all friends. I just hope you enjoy my movie.
Yeah.
Enjoy the movie, and I hope that because humans are humans. We can associate with each other, and I can understand that some things aren't made for me, but there should be something made for me because there's a lot of people like me, and there's a lot of people like other people, but it's like it's got to be a a proponent of what is proportionate to actual society. We need to start making films that like aren't made to, you know, give a political agenda when I really want Dracula to come and rip someone's head off. You know, he doesn't
Yeah.
he would have no respect of person, race, or any quality. He would just be there to terrify you. When you watch the movie, you would see it, and then all of a sudden you start picking up because you're on a ground floor where your TV is, and you're looking out the window just to make sure that Gary Oldman's not out there staring out your window going like this in that 1800 suit, because that would be freaky.
Yeah.
But if it was Gary Oldman, I would definitely be like, "Hey man, when you come in, sign a couple autographs, and hey, you want some tea? You want some coffee? We got it all here. Come on."
Yeah. I completely
That's the
agree
place
though.
that we got to get to. That's the place we got to get to, and that's where I'm going forward um at this moment in time with opening. I'm opening a production studio. I'm branching out to the United States, but I'm gonna do more films that are um we're gonna focus on people. We're gonna focus on stories and being entertainers, and I hope that the Hollywood actors that we work with and talk to, I hope that they buy in. I mean, I can't control people. I can't, all I can do is offer you a fair paycheck and hopefully a very comfortable time in which you buy in and really feel the character. Because if you don't, you're no use to me at all. So that's kind of I appreciate those that pass if they don't fill it. So um That's the next step. That's the next step right there. But you were talking about my past. I don't pay that much attention to the past that got me here because I'm kind of forward thinking. So I actually have to look at look kind of like I know what got me here, but I don't know what awards I won, how many of them I won.
Yeah.
My mom's got the trophy to the LA Film Festival, the London Film Festival, the Supreme Championship of the Cinematography Award, Supreme Champion from the London Film Actors Academy. All those are at my mom's house in Brevard, North Carolina. So, I to be honest with you, it's been such a heck of a ride, man. So, be honest, you just asked me and asked me away. I'm just oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot to mention for any of you guys out there that are fans of the Terrifier series. I don't know if you know about Terrifier series or
Hmm.
Art the Clown. Well, the one of the producers of Terrifier 2 and in the family of Stream and Terrifier with that family is joining with me in a partnership for the we're producing together The Haunting of Helen's Bridge, which I don't know if you like horror movies, Alex. Not sure.
Not a big horror movie guy. Never have been. Um, I saw that you were, that's kind of one of the projects you were working on currently, based on a true story,
It's worse than
loosely.
that, man. Worse than that. This started out as a documentary because there was the see I'm friends with Barry Fitzgerald, and he was the lead investigator. Well, we're I've spent the night at his house, him and his wife's house before over here in Ireland. Um, he was the head investigator for Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International with TAPS and all that. So he went to all these castles, was spending the night and all the most haunted places, this and that. So like I got inspired by him. I was like, yeah, yeah, he's going to take me to this place. And before I got to that place, I went and did some scouting on this haunted bridge where we had these urban legends, really, really, really creepy. And it had there's there was like tour buses. There'd be like probably 100,000 or more people visited it every year. I'm sure probably more than that, to be honest. And the stories were just so creepy. And I had an experience up there when I was younger, and I decided, why don't I make a documentary about that in like the ghost hunter kind of format, kind of make it like a ghost hunter thing, but it be a feature-length film. And it started out like that. And then I went and scouted it. And then my sister takes off running like crazy across the bridge in broad daylight and says, "Oh no, I'm getting out of here." And I'm sitting there like I'm sitting there just, like this. I got my phone out there and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna take this phone and I'm talking like I'm some cool guy, like scouting this place. Roll the footage back. There's a little girl that turns with black beady eyes, stares right at me in the woods. I was like, is this light coming down? Is this the way the light's reflecting? Or what is that? I need to know what that is because it turned and locked and dead stare right at me. And I was like, well, I got them where they count, so I'm going to make a movie on haunted ground about this and find out the story of what it is, an investigation where a filmmaker goes into the forest to the bridge and then tries to dig up the history because he's trying to save his struggling film career by coming up with a new film idea. And he gets more than he bargains for. But I'll leave it at that. But I've actually interwoven the actual footage of the entities and stuff in the film.
Okay.
So that could be interesting for some people that are into horror. I actually love doing all kinds of stuff. Kids films, action films, drama. Yeah, I don't care as long as I think that it's entertaining. But this, just like, it's one of those things I was sitting there like, holy crap! How did James Wan and them not get a hold of this? Lee Wannell and James Wan, how did they not know about this or get a hold of this? It's one of the most haunted bridges on Earth. It's in the top 10 most haunted bridges or spots like that on Earth, and it was right in my backyard. So that's kind of like we're doing that. A good we have a good cast that's forming together, and I'm excited about that. But I'm gonna stop because I know you want to talk about a little bit of how do you get to be a director of a feature film that's going to be in theaters and stuff like that. Like where I'm at, there's a pass there, and I'll let you guide me on that.
Yeah, yeah. So I was looking at your different accomplishments. Obviously, we already touched on football a little bit. One of the things that I noticed you did was you were a stagehand for the art department for Captain America: First Avenger, and I was curious what that entails and how you ended up getting that. Like, what were you doing? What does that mean to be a stagehand, and how did you get that?
You got hands, and they make you do a lot of stuff with them that nobody else wants to do. No, you're like the funny thing about that is I can't really speak. I can say like what it is or what you do, but I can't really speak about anything that happened on that set per se because of the NDAs and all that you you have to sign, which I don't think they would really care at this point, but who knows? It's ancient history, but now it's owned by a different company, Disney and all that. Because that one, I think that one was done. We were with Paramount doing that. The first Avengers movie. I, I may be wrong. I don't know. I was so far down the totem pole on that, like it's like you're doing one thing one day, and then the way a studio set works, and this is how it works. There's a lot of um companies that do their specific job for a living, right? So there's these guys that work on wrangling, like taking the footage, organizing it from the cameras to the you know where all the storage is happening and the DIT folks are the digital imaging technicians and all that. There's an area for them, and like those guys are do that thing, and some days you might be assisting them or like making sure they got their tape, and then there's other times that you're building, helping the grip unit with if it's on the stage, on the sound stage, you're basically right there with them. You are the hands of the things that have to be moved. And I wasn't joking about that. It's like um it's a very humbling job. It's I saw it, I was producing films at that point, but not on that level, you know what I mean? So getting a chance to get in there and get in that system and you know you never learn anything like you learn when you're like on actual sound stage. But it's I really don't think I never really think much about that experience. Like there's a lot of different bouncing around, but did did so many different type roles in a lot of these jobs coming up that it was always different almost every day what your sheet was. But then there's like a sheet that you guys go by that everything that correlates with all the shots that they're trying to do. So we were always kind of working ahead of the actual unit where the director and the actors were. We were kind of setting up and preparing for what they were going to be doing next. So we were just ahead of them. So um, if you're, I guess it's pretty important because if you don't have things together, then they could lose a lot of money by losing a day because the hardest thing in film is to lose time because every actor that is getting paid a day wage with like SAG after and the actor that are like on that movie or Game of Thrones or something, you're talking about a lot. So everybody's important. It's like but in that group we were the bass player in the band and we were also the I guess you would say the long snapper's assistant. We were pretty lowly and humble at that area, but it was a great start.
Yeah,
Great start.
definitely important though, like you mentioned. And Game of Thrones is like a show where I think people kind of don't understand how many levels there are. I've been watching a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, all the bonus features on that come with the
Hmm.
discs, and I think it's really interesting how they film it. And I
Yeah.
mean the makeup and the prosthetics team, the costume team, the special
Hmm.
effects and the editing, the set design. I mean, there's so much that
I
goes
know
into
all
it.
those people. I know every single one of those people.
It's just incredible. Like when you watched it, you just like kind of take it for granted. But then when you really break it down and learn about how it was done, I mean, it's quite incredible. And I guess I wanted to dive in with you. You were in season 8. You were a Lannister captain, and you were an Unsullied. And one of my favorite
I did a
episode.
lot of I did a lot of things, and I was kind of might not have been illegal to might not have been legal to work. So yeah, those roles were real important there.
Yeah.
But I was doing a lot. I was doing a lot of things on the Game of Thrones set. I was also part of the marketing uh team when it was done for Volvo and the tour, the Throne tour to pump up the seasons and yeah, I was a brand ambassador for Game of Thrones as well. So I was doing a lot of different things. So, but yeah, it's a very
Yeah.
that's a big machine. That that believe it or not, comparably, that machine, the way that whole machine worked over here was like I'm about 5 miles away from the set of King's Landing and Titanic Studios right now as we speak. Um, but it's just a lot of people don't know that too. Game of Thrones of the soundstage studios were made and the film was being filmed on the same site and location that the Titanic was built.
That's why it's called
That
Titanic Studios.
boom, that's
Uh,
it. Yeah,
I wondered that. I was gonna look it up and I never did. When we were watching that, my wife said like, "Oh, did they film Titanic there? Like, why is it called Titanic Studios?" Oh, there it
that's it.
is.
Belfast is where it was built. Yeah,
Huh. That's cool.
yeah. But yeah, I found that because I was standing outside with Vlad. Vlad was taking pictures. He was the Night King.
Yep.
Um,
Oh yeah.
yep. So Vlad was out there, and it was like I don't know if it was his last day or what. I don't know what he was doing. But it's like he was getting sentimental, and he was there taking pictures of like all this stuff. I mean, he's been here for like years at this point. This guy's one of the biggest stunt swordsman battle people in the world. This guy is incredible. He was even the sword fighter in Kingdom of Heaven for Ridley Scott. He is the Night King, and we never got to see him fight with a sword. I wish I had a chance to. I had an idea, but I know Kogan and all those guys would have told me to go where to go. But I wanted to see him fight. I think everybody waited a long time to see him fight. It would have been great. But he was out there taking these sentimental photos, and like he just was absorbing the history. But he loved every moment of it because he went from being a stunt actor to being the Night King on Game of Thrones. And you know, there's Kit, there's Amelia, there's Peter, and there's all everybody there, and then there's Vlad.
Yeah.
Probably in the Middle Ages would have been the baddest mofo in the whole place, in the whole joint. And he wasn't getting quite as much credit for it, but yeah, oh man, that was Game of Thrones might have been one of the most influential experiences that I've had in film. And I didn't really know it at the time. Like, really didn't.
Yeah.
There was a there was a woman I always like to speak about her because like they don't and the thing is I didn't learn this till later, nor do I really care, but she's a woman and I think that she's LGBTQ. She didn't throw it or flaunt it out there, but she was one of the best producers I've ever seen in my life. Her name is Bernadette Caulfield, Bernie Caulfield. That woman is incredible. She had such she had it together. I've never seen, I mean, I've seen there are big time producers and stuff that do this, but the command that she had and the confidence that she had, and she wouldn't even know that, didn't know that I watched her. I watched her. I was soaking it in. I was absorbing everything, and everyone had the joke about me because of my situation. Like they have the black tents. Have you heard of the black tents? Okay,
Mm.
so on a movie set, there's these black tents, and that's where your producers and directors and those guys are during daytime. A lot of times, they're watching the scene, and on a really big set like you know Game of Thrones per se, you could have filming going on in one spot, and I was on the dragon unit, so you're over here, and we're spending 25 hours tiling 130 guys to look like they're like 40,000 guys or 100,000 guys. And we're just looping all that. And then we shoot a scene when, Kit and Amelia and Peter's group comes in, and then they have the other King's Landing group doing other things, and they would just pop about. But that whole, how finely tuned that machine was just
Yeah.
insane. And we always would get told that you can't do not don't mess about because I think it was every second or every minute. It might have been every second, and maybe minute. He said every minute that you waste is 10,000 pounds, which is about 13,500 bucks USD, US dollar per minute that you're screwing around on your job
Wow.
because the budget's so high. So if you screw anything up, or you got these people over here talking during the middle of takes, or you got these guys over here not being focused,
Yeah.
you're wasting a lot of money. So
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Yeah.
And I think the whole
I,
show, I mean, it's my favorite show. I mean, it's a great show, but it starts, from season one. There's so much going on. There's so many characters to follow. There's so many different places you have to go where you've got to have a different set because you're in the north and it's snowing, and then you're down in, with the Dothraki, and then you're in like a complete desert, and you've got all over the place. And I mean, you narrow
well,
it down when
I
you
don't
when
want
you
I
get
don't
to
want I
season
don't ruin
eight.
it for you. I don't want to ruin it for you. And I say,
Um,
well, Winterfell and King's Landing were only about 20 miles away from each other.
yeah, yeah. But you've got to have all these different sets prepared, I guess is what I'm like. You've got to have all kinds of different stuff going on. You've got to have so many different extras, costumes,
Oh
because you've
yeah,
got
yeah.
different families and they all dress different. And they've got different cultures, and I know a lot of it is like one of them. I think maybe for the Battle of the Bastards, I was reading about they
That's a salt
really
mine. That was
dove
in Lauren. That's a
into.
salt mine. Yeah.
they dove into the like battle history. They were reading history of different battles, from the
Yeah.
Roman Empire and all these different stuff to incorporate that into the filming. Um, because there's just so many layers that go
Yeah, I
into it,
think
and they
that
also
was Jamie. That was Jamie and Billy. The Jamie and Billy are the military advisors. And then you talk about some interesting dudes right there. Especially especially Jamie. He's like a drill sergeant. He would scream at those dudes and like he had names for them, and it was like a term of endearment. He had one guy that kind of was one of the soldiers, and he would call him Boy Band because he dressed his hair up and everything like he was like one of the 1990 boy bands. He'd be like, Boy Band, and he'd be like he would. And when it came to the Unsullied, he had no filter at all. But he was like, it was like like they were going to do a close up scene of the Unsullied. He was like, all right, I need my handsome ones up here in the front. And he meant the black dudes because the Unsullied were supposed to be black. So all the Irish dudes, the Irish native kind of dudes would have to go to the back of rows just to fill out the look. So he said, give me those good looking guys up front now. We need them. So my friend Lewis, he was one of them, and he's like, oh God. Yeah, he's like, they used me. I've been here for 100 straight days. But man, we had a lot of good what they call crack. I don't use that term much, but that's what they if you ever come to Ireland and you say what's the crack, it's like, what's the word on the street? What's the gossip? What's the funny stories going on? And you'd hear that a lot. You have the We'd have the Dothrakis feeding fake blood to the horses off their swords. The horses were basically eating the swords half the time, and oh man, it is just a crazy experience. You would never have seen anything like it in your life. You couldn't even almost imagine because a lot of what you see in that is called like the CGI in that. A lot of that is plates. So what they do is we look at a natural geographic type, not National Geographic, but a national a natural geographic location and like build on it. So you'll have this 4K, 6K image. Back in the day, it was still RE, I think RE STXs plus or something like that, then the LF and whatnot. But RE didn't really break into the 4K, 6K game until later because they didn't need to. They own the industry. They make better pixels. Each pixel is better than any other camera, so you don't need you don't need 6K. So they would film that. We'd film a plate in the high resolution and everything that was in the distance. The VFX companies like the motion picture company MPC, I think what they called a bunch of digital frame or something. I don't remember all those things at this point. I haven't really had high enough budget to kind of, you know, use their services. So we're kind of uh, independently. I'm at a little bit different level than those guys. But doing the plates, you have natural landscape, and then you have probably even like Dunluce Castle is on the cliffs, and it was used, and they built on top of those cliffs and the ruins of this castle and build this what you see on TV. So what a lot of what you're seeing is real, but half of it ain't.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
they showed some of that in in some of those behind the scene things, where like the Battle of the Bastards, they went to that the certain field that was kind of a bowl, um,
Yeah,
right? But then obviously you've only got a couple hundred extras, so you've got to multiply it, and they do a set of shots, and then they
I
do a
think
set a couple other.
that day was in season seven. I think there was over 200 extras in season seven on that day.
Yeah,
I think
and how
there
they
was
would.
multiple days. There was multiple days,
Uh,
especially King's Landing at the end. King's Landing at the end, I know that there was over 350 at least.
yeah, right, and it's
Same.
insane how they layered it in. Like they'd do a set of shots, and then they'd have people running in different directions and other, and then they'd layer each set on there. So I mean, your final product looks like absolute chaos in a battle or whatever's going on, but it was actually all these different shots and angles just layered in
That
there.
was the worst day of my life.
Which
That
one?
day was the oh, I was just talking about like I think it was the bells.
Yeah.
Bells, yeah, like it was like my parting gift. Like, okay, Steven, been here forever. We're going to feature you, and Peter's going to walk through here, and a you're going to be a Lancer general, and you're going to die in front of him. It's going to really affect him. That never made the cut. It was just funny hearing the ADs and all of us laughing at we did the scene and then he did walk through and we did all that. But then all day long, I guess for my shenanigans on set in my position or whatever, um was was to have a large man named Tiago run through me through a door through a building and land on top of me about 45 times in one day. And man, it was so much fun. It's so much fun. The kid then blazing through with swords, like running around it was all happening. It was crazy. My friend um got engaged during the scene where Amelia Clark just stops the scene and commands this random extra guy to bend the knee, and he proposed to his wife now. Just some
That's cool.
crazy stuff happened. Me and my wife, we actually just saw him at the outlets down in Ban Bridge beside the Game of Thrones museum and tour museum that they have here. I've never been on that. I don't really think I could really learn anything. You know, I wouldn't
Yeah.
already know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing show.
What about
And I went from being a fan to being a part of it like
yeah.
overnight. I got the call and I was like, would you do this for me and then do that for us? And I was like, sure, not knowing that I was going to be outside in the freezing cold at night for like 50 something straight nights, get frostbite on the tip of my nose. They put skin glue on my nose. It was freaking weird, but crazy, just crazy. It was like just a wild time that I'll always remember the rest of my life.
Was that was that for the long night? The 55 like 50 straight nights outside or whatever? In the behind the scenes it said that it was like 11 weeks of night shooting and like
Yeah, and
55 days to film that.
it was really cold. Yeah, it was really cold, and that was in Tomb. That was a town called Tomb where that Winterfell was. But we also shot some like like the scene with Carice, um Carice Van Houten. Okay, so she is the Red Witch.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I forget her character's name. Yeah,
Melisandre?
Melisandre. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
remember.
If you would have
I
said that, I
remember.
would have been like, "Oh yeah, I know."
I was so enthralled that like Guy Pearce is like her husband or something like that, and then like she was pregnant when we were doing that, and he's like over there like, "Oh, darling, you're doing fantastic," and like I'm like, "Holy shit, it's Guy Pearce!" That's what I just kept thinking. It's like he's around here somewhere. That's kind of cool. That guy's awesome, but whatever. Um, I met a lot of there was more famous people on that set, but I like that guy. She's very nice too, but that was shot inside of the soundstage, like where she makes the fire and the tunnel and
Yeah,
all that. I was actually standing or squatted down beside her when she's doing the whatever language she was talking in and making the fire ignite in that pit. So I was right beside her for that, and then the zombie explosion through the lines and all that. That was shot in part there. That was absolutely the most insane, the most insane experience you've ever seen. Because these people, I think, really thought they were zombies. I mean, they looked scary as hell, dude. I mean, they came in there and they were like running through and then like running through and then hitting these swords and these shields and everyone's just like bracing and they're really connecting. Some of them are really connecting with each other. Like it was like football. It was like football, but they had like, you know, rubber hammers and junk down.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's just crazy. It's just a weird experience. But then yeah, most of the shoot was up in a town called Toome in Northern Ireland, and it's winter wasn't coming. Winter was already there. I can just say that. A matter of fact. But the fake snow that we had would get packed in my nose somehow. Like I would be breathing it in, and I have like this like soot weird, like you blow your nose, and I would have this weird stuff. It was I don't know. I mean, I might have been just playing around too much and sticking my nose where it didn't belong in our stuff. But yeah,
Well, it turned
that
out
was
good.
great.
That's my favorite episode of the whole series, is The Long Night. I
Yeah,
maybe it's because I like action and it's just like it's a great battle scene. I think it does a lot of characters justice. I feel
hmm
like it does Jorah justice. I mean, his whole mission is complete. He served Daenerys the best he could. Arya's the hero.
yeah.
There's a lot of I think Jamie coming up there and fighting like it shows a lot about his character because I mean, he had a crazy character
That's
arc.
that's a cool guy, by the way. He's a very, very, very nice person.
Yeah,
He's that guy's a good dude. What's his name?
Nikolai Castor.
Nick. Yeah, Costerwald, dude. I
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
I was talking to him about casting him for something. His people, but I've got to get back on track on that. He's been real busy, but that guy's really super nice. He's a family man.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool.
he like I walked in and I was going on a walkthrough, and because the costume department is all down this long aisle, and there's like giant rooms for different parts, and he was sitting there with his wife having a coffee and tea and his kids among all the extras that were in there doing, getting ready and whatnot. I mean, he probably had like some Winnebago or something out there, like
Yeah.
so, but but a lot of those guys were really cool. I mean, but you never, to be honest with you, there was some people that I bumped into that were on the Dragon unit and stuff like that that they themselves could have paid for the whole budget for Game of Thrones. Like Aaron Rodgers, like
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I
Aaron
saw that.
Rodgers and Danica Patrick. Um, I was there. I saw them.
Chris
Um,
Stapleton too was didn't he got some part in something I saw that.
I'm I'm absolutely certain that something like that happened, but it was like there was a rumor that Dale Earnhardt Jr. rolled up to the studio and wanted to get a private tour, and they told him no. I mean, they're just like, but everybody was so tight knit. That was one of the things I was talking about. Like, if it's working, don't stop or don't just, you know, just go with it in that sense because like it was to the point like Kit Harington loved everybody on set. Peter Dinklage was always cracking jokes, no matter how big or how small, both figuratively and literally. It did not matter. Um, like Amelia Clark was given the Unsullied team high fives as they were going off work and she was coming in. and
Yeah.
like the lady that played Cersei was like she played such a bee on the show, but literally might have been the nicest person in the world, one of the nicest people you could ever meet. Um, so yeah, like
And that's why the product was so good. I mean,
I think a lot of them grew up there, like they
yeah,
I kind of came in late on that, so um they kind of grew up there. I wish I had been a part of it from the beginning.
yeah,
That would have been very interesting. I'm kind of glad that my road took a different path because the all the things that were there, even though that I got to believe that it was a world and a place, and I got to go there and be
yeah,
there and be a part of all that and the history of it and see the shortcomings, see the greatness and the shortcomings, and see everything, just see everything and the people and how they're affected and how some AD can be a jerk, but one of the lead actors can grab some guys that are barely making probably $150 a day and say, no, they're with us. They deserve to go to the bathroom, and you guys can go to the bathroom with us. And we're headed that way. So they pretty much tell the AD, get out of our way. These people deserve to be treated like human beings. So it was cool to see some of that stuff happening to there on such a big set, because a lot of people get left too lowly, or some people think too much stuff because we we did a film with Faye Dunaway, and apparently she's one of the most terrible people on earth, and I never experienced that, but I'm pretty sure Damien might have experienced that.
yeah,
I dealt with distribution and producing on regards to that, so I didn't never had to deal with that. But I hear, that there's nightmares, but on that set, I didn't really ever witness anything like
yeah.
that.
It's nice to hear. Well, that people you watch on TV, the actors you like. It's nice to hear when they're good, that are actually good people, right? It makes it more enjoyable to watch their stuff. If you find out that somebody's a total jerk off, then sometimes it's like, now I have a hard time supporting that person because I know they're just a terrible person. But if you like, okay, that person's genuine, they treat everyone kind, doesn't matter like where they are, and all that stuff, and it's not fake when you see them in interviews and they actually look like, because sometimes it's hard to tell, is that person being genuine, or are they just fake for their
Oh,
interview? So when you
know how
hear
I
the
am now. Oh, sorry.
confirmation,
Go
no, I was
ahead.
just saying when you hear the confirmation that they actually are genuine people, um, it's nice to hear.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've actually gotten to where I can read them. I can kind of read these people. They can open their mouth to me within 2 seconds, or me see one interaction, and I would determine, now I'm the director, now I'm the producer, now I'm the master of the story. I don't have to put up with it.
Yeah,
I want, and to be honest with you, I am more of a Stanley Kubrick type of a director. I'll push limits. I'll do things I need to do to get what I want. I may never be as good as him. It would be great if I ever got in the same conversation. I'm not saying that, but more along the lines, he had famous actors at times that literally would say, what are we doing, or what's going on? And he sitting there just just a guy looking through the lens, and through his viewfinder. He poked his head out and around, and he looked up and he says, how about let's try it again, but this time with some good acting. It was almost intolerable, but at the same time, he knew what he wanted. He wanted to get it out of the people because he cared, and that level of caring to know, I want this look, or I want that. I know what I want, and if it comes from this little modded little lens, like this right here, just to say this this is kind of interesting right here. This is one of the most beautiful lenses that I've shot on. I have giant lenses. I've had Cook cinema lenses. This is a Helios 44M. and it is a what do they call it, a KMZ, and it's one of the earlier ones. This isn't one of the earlier ones. This is a 1983 model. This is the same lens that they used for the 58 millimeter in Dune 2, and also the same 58 millimeter that they used in the Batman. This guy, modded, modded and built. Guess how much this costs?
Um,
Under $200.
oh, I was gonna say like $1,000. Like I should go higher.
That's the beauty of it. It doesn't it you put this in your pocket and you snap it on, you find it something amazing or artistic, and then you got your big lenses, and some of them are absolutely like I love Cook. I love vintage. I love the vintage looks. I love the film look. I love filming, but I don't love like 8 millimeter two dotty things saying I'm trying to, or just the feel of cinema. Um, but I'm more like that. I'm more like I want to find the elements that can take your butt out of your seat and make you be a silent observer in the room. It's a lot of things like like they say like I'm really big in football, American football. It's like a lot to me. It means a lot. So, like when they say football is not a complicated sport, it's just when, what's complicated is getting people to do what they're supposed to do on every play. And the execution of what they want to get done because simply you're stopping this person from taking the ball and advancing it to the end zone. You win the line of scrimmage, you stop them on the run, and you can cover their men that can't score. So how could they win? If you keep them in good field positions, it's simple. All the intricacies of how you get that executed can become complicated. But in the true essence, it's the same thing with film because when you're looking through that frame or looking at that frame, nothing else in the world matters. And even less can matter if you deal with negative space and you deal with even tight focuses where you're just focusing on somebody's face. It doesn't matter what the rest of the world is, just that frame. So what you get in that space and you get it executed in that moment, in that time with the right emotion, right language. It's simple. It's simple as long as you know that. I mean, like, all right. So just one thing about like people overcomplicating things in like film. Like, okay, so I need this covers, that covers, just this. Those are for people that don't know what they want. They want to have options because they don't know what they want. Um, if you know what you want, you still grab a couple of extra things, but simply say, we're looking at a hallway going into this room where this important conversation is going on. You got the symmetry in the middle of that door. It's beautifully lit. You got this room going on. You hear voices and you're slowly pushing in. Well, what are you doing? The audience, is the observer that's walking into the room.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated. And everyone makes everything so complicated. And, when you're at that dinner where it's like these two dignitaries, this major, whatever's going on, you're the butler standing in the corner watching at a 45-degree angle, the opposite of the key light. That's what you are when you're the audience. And if you can make the camera and yourself be that observer of the the, the story, then movies are going to get better. And that's
Yeah.
the way things were before. It wasn't a bunch of rich kids just getting to do shit. It was like these guys got kicked out of film school. These guys didn't make, oh, wait, that's Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. You know, they knew how to tell a story. You know what I mean? They knew how to
Yeah.
do it and they could convey a message and entertain people. And gosh, I just really hope that we can get back to that. I miss watching good movies. And I think
Yeah.
that there are some good ones, but
Yeah. Well. So you need people like you who have their own, working on their own production companies, putting out stuff, trying to change that. Hopefully, if there's more of that, and people start watching that stuff and kind of
We
realizing we
need
can get
people,
back
we
to
need the
that.
people to get behind us. The thing is,
Right.
the people need to get behind us because the people don't really understand. It's like I'm in a very good position. It's not the greatest position, but I'm in the same position that, Jason Bloom had found himself at one point, and um, uh, a lot of people that got to go in these directions. And I think genuinely, I think it has to do with actually just being a pretty good person, and trying to be a good person. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's the toughest part of it, I might have a shot, but I try. But being genuine and having a good heart. But the thing is we need people to be behind us because Hollywood is not making a lot of films anymore. They'll make they're making their tempos, but they're buying films, acquiring them with the acquisition team from markets or straight from the acquisition team who somebody that knows somebody. And normally they're acquiring it for X amount of dollars with this split on this territory, and they'll show you their distribution process or what they're going to put in. And then the lawyers get in there and talk and make a deal, and then there's your movie. And you can sell it. There's a million ways to finance a film. Um, but you kind of these days you have to make it. You have to make the film. You have to risk it all, put your head on the chopping block. Um, because they're just not going to give you the money to do it. You have to do the Trent Reznor thing from Nine Inch Nails when he walked into the record label and they said, "Why should we sign you?" And Trent Reznor said, "Because you'd be a damn fool not to." He was right. So fingers crossed, you know, let's see how things go. But I really, really hope that there's going to be a renaissance in film and comedy and just people being able to get along. It would be really nice. It'd be
Yeah.
really good.
I also think
I
there's
don't
a
know.
lack of
Yeah,
creativity, lack of original ideas. Like, see a lot of stuff coming out in Hollywood and the remakes of movies, old movies. They're just making it again with different actors and different, or they're just
yeah.
taking the same plot and they're calling it something different. But where's the originality? Where's these creative ideas? I feel like we're missing some of
Suppressed.
that too.
Still there, suppressed. It's suppressed by these certain standards. You couldn't just be to now you can't just be a good writer or a good film director a lot of times. You also have to meet some sort of qualification unless you tie their hands. So in a lot of ways, and it's not always like that, but there's no I'm telling you this right now, there is not a whole lot of here you go, buddy. We think you're going to do a great job. We think you deserve a chance happening for a guy that's like me, um, who's a father with young kids and a wife. Um, like you kind of have to have an alternative lifestyle, which I don't say there's anything wrong with that. It's none of my business, but I don't think it should determine if somebody's better than me at a job, if
Yeah.
it's my livelihood. But I think that we're making a turn from that. Uh, and I don't care about anything other than the quality of the product.
Right. And that's what it
And
should be about.
yeah, and I'll work with anybody to get things done. One of my best friends, his name is Phil. He's a manager and a publicist. I didn't even know we were really cool. We were always cracking jokes and stuff. You know what? Him and his husband. got married a month ago, but he's cool as hell. We're all cool. I just hope that it doesn't have to be so ironclad, and it can be like me and Phil. We're friends. We're buds. We'll laugh our butts off talking to each other. Doesn't matter. None of that other stuff matters. It just matters that we all want to make art together.
Right.
We want to make great things so that the real bosses, the people in the audience who spend their money, that the theaters get 50% of, and then the studio gets, you know, 40% of, and then there's a 10% that goes to the production company or the director, the writer out of that, like the audience is the boss, and it's been ignored. Has it not been ignored? I mean, there's one thing, I don't want to make anybody mad, but the one thing that really like blew my mind because I didn't understand Rotten Tomatoes until I realized that Rotten Tomatoes was owned by Warner Brothers. I started thinking that if it's a rating company about critics or something, then it's only smart business wise that their movies are going to be rated really high. They're coming
Yeah.
out of that they sunk the most money in. So I got into this world of understanding those sort of things, and I realized that, but hey, we're taking left turns, and then we're circling around, and when we're like wasting the time when we could forget about all of that and say, let's just get back to we can do original stories, we can do things and still check these boxes, but let it happen organically and actually just really enjoy each other's company and not be so, you know, stressful. I think there is a way to achieve what everybody wants organically and naturally without forcing anything, and then focus on the story because the story is king.
Yeah.
It's it's all that matters.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And I hope that we can get back because I mean, like you said, it should be all about the consumer, the people watching it, and most people want to watch a movie because it's something that interests them. The story's intriguing, they want to take a break from their real life and they want to jump into a different world and they want to
Right.
experience this and I mean that's what matters, right? You want the story to be enjoyable and hopefully we can we can get to that point again, where people are you know, enjoying movies for that reason.
Yeah. It's it yeah, and not to beat a beat something to death, but the truth is that we, the filmmakers and people in the industry, we can't spoon feed people what we want them to have. They already know it, and they're not in a situation where their careers or everyday lives, their jobs are determined by what Hollywood thinks. So when they go to their 9 to 5, or they go do whatever they do for a living, when they want to go put their buck on something, they want to put it on something they can trust, not a tester teaser that fooled them into thinking that they were going to enjoy something. They want to actually get their money's worth. And I think that the industry is fully capable of that, of giving good stuff again. I just think that there was a rift where they felt like they had to do something, they overcompensated in some way, and it made everybody angry or displeased. And if they just find the synergy of coming together, I just I just, I just think there's enough like-minded people from all different facets of lives and lifestyles and cultures that we have a lot more in common than we have, that tears us apart. So I just think that that's if we focus on what we have together and then highlight some of the things that are different that are positive, then we're going to be very cool. We're going into very cool times, hopefully. I don't know if that's now or if that's in 10 years or down the line, but hopefully we'll find the sweet spot.
Yeah, totally. Couldn't agree more. Well, Stephen, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, sharing some of your personal experiences, what stuff you've been a part of and what you're working on now, and then kind of just talking about movies and films and whatnot. Yeah, appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. I love your background with the stormtroopers and all that. I was actually just kind of eyeballing that. I was eyeballing on the other side, like, what's he got going on back there? So uh, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I got to see a cedar stuff filled with a bunch of stuff in it right now. But thank you for having me. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate people that are talking, going out there and speaking for the arts, the arts, sports, all of it's entertainment. We're all entertainment, and we got to keep we all have to keep in mind that the boss or the real thing that keeps everybody going is the audience's money,
Yep. Yeah. Couldn't
and
agree
the
more.
hardworking people that actually go, they deserve your best, and
Yep.
whatever that is, they deserve the best that you can. If they went to see you, then you got to give them what you got.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes soon.